What is up, YouTube? It's Aaron back here with the channel, and today we're doing On the Bubble. I think we're on episode 12 now. We've got Logan, as usual. Rahan is in the middle of moving, so he's not going to be here. So we found some degenerates from Texas to fill in the noise while we're waiting for him to come back. Aditya, how are you doing, my friend?
Good. I'm good. Look close enough to Rahan, so should be fine.
Yeah, we kept the quota alive of diversity. And we've got Cam the Man Neal, most recently second place at YCS Anaheim. How are you doing, sir?
Doing pretty good. Pretty good.
Alrighty, bet. So, we'll see how long this one takes. We got a few stuff to go over. We got the ban list that we haven't had the chance to discuss yet, along with the Genesis points update, which we'll keep pretty brief because most of us aren't as experienced with it as some other people out there. And on top of that, we'll give some discussion on the new Konami products that got announced, the Brandon Structure Deck, which was this past weekend, and then the 5D Structure Deck as well, that is coming out, I think, November, December, something around there.
Yeah,
And then
November.
we'll have the Pittsburgh discussion because that is in a week and a half, and I think everyone in here is going to that, so that'll be a fun discussion on how things are changing, even though nothing actually changed, or nothing like no new cards got introduced, just removed. So we'll see how that kind of progresses. In advance, sorry if my audio is messed up. I am trying a new computer out. It should be fixed tomorrow, but I don't have time to sort it, and we needed to get this out. So let's get right into it. Advanced ban list update. So this is the first E-ban list that I'm aware of in a very long time. I don't actually know how long. Like, was it Pepe format the last time that we had one of these?
I think it was
Um,
Pepe.
Pretty sure,
and
yeah.
if that's the case, then it was 2016. I'm pulling it up real quick. I was on it, but it was just seven banned cards. Protos, two barrier statues, False Elena, Dimensional Barrier, Ouroboros, and there was one more. If anyone else remembers. Um, so yeah, E-ban list. I think this makes Pittsburgh way more enjoyable considering we already had four events of the format already, and we kind of saw it progress into something that didn't look super enjoyable. So Cam, you're the one that had the most success out of us in the recent history. What are your thoughts on the ban list and how it kind of shapes things moving forward?
Uh, well, them hitting the artifact was pretty good, as you can see from the finals.
Yes, yes, that was the last card that I forgot. That is a good one to have out of the way. So yeah, Mjolnir, Barrier Statues, which were searchable in the Mitsurugi deck, Ouroboros and Barrier, which were in the top 8 feature match. Shout out Alex Bergeron, that's my boy, along with Protos. And then, yeah, so this removes a lot of the non-games that you will hear a lot of people talk about, especially on Twitter. So, is first things first, shout out Konami. This is well needed and very happy that they did that. Over the past like year and a half, I want to keep giving them credit when they make good decisions. This is a good one. You can argue didn't hit Herald, didn't hit, doesn't matter. Like, be proud of the things they're doing because let's say 3 years ago, this is not something that gets done, and we're just still complaining about this shit for 2 months. So, want to make sure we give them their praises whenever they do something good, and this is definitely a positive change. Obviously, communication would be nice, and we have a better idea of when this happens, but at the end of the day, like they made a good decision, so thank you to them. So, Aditya, you did all right in Anaheim. You were playing the Draco Tail deck. What are your thoughts on Draco Tail post list now that you're not going to get Mjolnired or Barriered?
Um, I think it's fine. I think Dragotel is actually in a much better position now, especially with Barrier being gone. I never found the Fossil Diner or the Mjolnir to really be the biggest issues for the deck, mostly because you already played so many hand traps at the time that most of the time, if they wanted to commit to a full board, they'd have to give you like 2 to 3 draws through like Fua. And I personally, along with Pack, were main decking Meows for Anaheim. So like that was a really nice addition. So your opponent just wouldn't really have the opportunity to get to those cards most games. But D barrier was definitely like one of the bigger issues. Um, One of my losses were to actually no sorry, two of my losses were technically to D barrier. The other one was to Featherstorm, which would have been a great additional hit, but unfortunately, that's fine. It is what it is.
Yeah, the Rizal deck still has some options out there. So the deck's not dead, but it's definitely a lower power level, and I think that is appropriate considering how it was winning those games. So Logan, what are your thoughts on all this?
I mean, there's obviously nothing like really to complain about. We got, the eight, what is it, seven cards banned, more than we thought we would. And before Pittsburgh. Something I think that they did really well on this list also is like hitting the second best option. Like if they just banned Fossil Dyna, people would go to the Rock statue. If they just banned Protoss, they'd go to the Fire statue. So I think having like a little bit of foresight with that is good for them. Barrier, I was not really expecting. Like, even if you told me there was an emergency ban list, I wouldn't really expect them to put Barrier on it. I think it's a good hit. I think it actually hurts Pure Yummy more than it helps the other decks that are affected by it. Um, Pure Yummy was kind of like a floodgate merchant deck, like Malice has been in the past, where you can just like spam whatever the best floodgate is. And now we're kind of getting into the territory where the good floodgates require like some sort of setup, like we said, Featherstorm, which obviously is pretty easy to accomplish and pull off, but it can be stopped by hand traps and just not drawing engine and stuff. So I think overall this is pretty good. I think it's just mainly a buff to like the Mitsurugi decks and a buff to any deck that's playing a lot of engine and low non-engine.
Yeah, I mean, this allows you to now, like, we'll see how the non-engine shapes that in terms of breakers versus hand traps, but you are now even more available to play breakers. Like, the hoops that you have to jump through to play floodgates now is substantially higher. So good
Yep.
for that. This is definitely a hit to thrust as well because I think barrier was just in general just like the best card to set. It hit effectively every deck in the format to some noticeable degree. So thrust definitely is a noticeable hit. Losing this like prime just like go first set that was generic and hit like the entire format. So we'll kind of see how that shapes things up. Like if you are maining thrust, are you maining just like are you setting imperm? Are you playing a black goat lefts? Are you setting now multiple trap cards for going first, like DDG and whatever else, like viruses? Like now like there's some other options out there for ignorance, and you don't just get like the luxury of just like barrier, which in general didn't affect your deck and also hit other decks. So hopefully a little bit more cost utilized when doing that. So we'll get more into meta discussion in a little bit. Sorry, we're saying something, Logan?
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing that's kind of interesting is obviously looking at this ban list, it makes it look like breakers are going to be better, but in a way, this also buffed hand traps because there was a period of time where people were cutting down on hand traps because they didn't want to get thrusted into barrier.
Mhm.
So it could go kind of either way with this, or it could just be a format where now it's okay to play like a mix.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think any option is now kind of viable. You can do like chummies and breakers, you can do straight breakers like you saw Triff do, you can do like kind of the hybrid that we saw for like Leal where it was like Ash, Fua, Droplet, whatever. Towards the end of the format, we saw like some flood hand traps like Fua, Droll, Dark Ruler, so kind of depends on what you expect the meta to look like, but I think most options are viable as long as your engine is strong enough to crack whatever's left or like break whatever you have still in there.
Yep.
So that is Banlist Discussion. That was fun. Now we can get into Genesis for a little bit. Cam, I think you have played this probably the most of all of us. I know Logan started looking into it a little bit. The team that I joined, Smoke Bandits, is primarily doing Genesis content, so I'll have the link in the description if that's something you're interested in checking out. But yeah, I'm not going to go through all this one by one. I'm just going to ask everyone in here that has played the format, what are the things that stand out here? And like, we'll start with like the big losers, and we can go to the big winners. Cam.
Oh, yeah, the big hits was definitely like Vanquish Soul.
Yeah, Vanquish
Uh,
Soul. Where's it
yeah, that
at?
was that was clearly the best deck, but I think they like went overkill when they hit it.
So
There's some further down as well.
yeah, further. Okay, why
Yeah,
why why is this not in a reasonable order?
I
It's
don't know.
sorted by like FTK cards, engine, draw power, like
That is
it's sorted like
kind of
somewhat weird,
ignorant.
like
Okay.
generic cards. Yeah.
So okay, so these are cards that would be in Mitsurugi, and these are cards that would be
Mhm.
in, I guess, Onomat.
Uh,
Okay, sure. Okay, so here's the Vanquishable stuff. So we have Holy Su, Zhaolong, Rosin. All got
yeah,
put with like a pretty noticeable point increase. This I think X
yeah.
Drive as well got added. So yeah, Cam, let us know how this affects it.
They hit extra. They even hit Rescue A's Impulse
Hmm.
just because it played it too. But yeah, I think that deck's probably unplayable now.
Really?
Nash Knight as well. Yeah.
Yeah, they hit Nash Knight.
What is X Drive at? Where it's somewhere in this
It's at
area.
10, I believe.
10. So
Yep.
10.
10.
When so you have to like set so you can't play I guess they gave it the something similar to Draco Tail treatment where like you can't max 5 mana and play your deck. So
Mhm. You also can't play like Shifter in it now. You can't play Ash in it. So like you have no
yeah.
attributes. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
final.
So you're just out of good fires, you're out of good holy like you can't use holy Sus, so I guess they did
Yeah.
the same thing to Vanquish Soul and Genesis they did in Current. They gave you one event with it and then they're like, all right, you've had your fun and
Yeah.
well, rough. I see some other hits. We see Cicada King and Totem Bird, which are the only hits that I am aware of for the Radiant Typhoon deck, which I've seen a little bit, and that deck seems very good. Like Mirage of Nightmare also got like lowered in points, so
Yeah,
I'm
it's
kind
at
of
0
surprised
now.
to see that deck just like get buffed to I think a pretty high level. Like if it's not the best deck, I'd be kind of surprised. It just seems very overtuned compared to how hard some decks got hit in all of this. Anyone have experience playing that?
I played against it, so like, but I've never played it. But it's probably like top 2, top 3 decks.
Yeah. That's
That and I think Art Mage is one of the best decks too.
which one, sorry?
Like Art Mage.
Yeah. My roommate has been testing that one out. It seems pretty strong. The one thing that I was the most interested in that I haven't looked into super in depth is like the staples and those adjustments. So we see Monster Reborn going down, Mirage of Nightmare going down to 0. Um, we'll see how this plays out. I think it may be a little too cheap. Um, I'm just kind of hesitant to like give decks draw cards for free, as we saw like the Exodia deck kind of perform very well early. Like this just doesn't. This seems to like facilitate that a little bit. Um, Harpies and Lightning Storm getting cheaper. I think this is good. Like you want the side deck cards to have a cost. Um, and like if you want to be able to choose a going second strategy, I think that's also viable. And these cards are very good, obviously like Storm monsters and back row. But the fact that like I've heard other content creators talk about this, where if the cards are just too expensive in general, like why would you justify them in your deck? Like the line should be somewhere where like you are making a sacrifice to include them, but they're still playable. And when they were originally at whatever 30 and 40 each, like I think no deck is ever going to justify them, especially with Thrust also having points, plus a lot of good engines also having points. Like you can't really justify that in the deck. Nibiru going down. Two cards that did not get hit point adjustments that I was kind of surprised to see were Shifter and Droll. Cam, what is your thoughts on that? Because I think those cards have been pretty format defining in the beginning.
Yeah, I think Droll should like it should, they obviously should cost points, but I think Droll's like right where it should be,
Okay.
just because like you need cards to stop like the like Exodia decks and like stuff like that.
Do you think the format would just be healthier if those decks were gone and Droll was more expensive, or would you just prefer it to be a viable card in the format?
I think it should just be a viable card in the format.
Okay.
Just like Nib, like I'm glad they lowered that too, like
Hmm.
because no deck was ever playing around that card before,
Yeah.
but
Well,
now they like have to.
I mean, it's the same way that you treat Droll as like in the TCG, just being
Hmm.
like a major check to the decks that just are meant to go first and
Yeah,
basically FTK you.
it just
Yeah.
gives you a shot going second, like with the in that format.
That's
I mean,
fair.
that's all it really is. It's just a card to
Yeah.
check those like specific decks.
Yeah, my frustration is when they're decks that are like kind of a lower power level. I can't think of one off the top of my head. But just like the decks that like search a lot but like don't do too much. Like we'll say like I'll use Sky Striker as an example, but like a while ago when all I did was like set some Widow Anchors and like there wasn't zero. Like what that deck was ending on through a Droll was like nothing. But like when you gave it some draws, it was generally like low impact. Um, so I like I'm gonna trust y'all guys because y'all play this way more than me. Like I watched the Onomat deck, and that deck definitely deserved to have Droll against it, or like something like Nib where
Yeah.
you can't play around it. So there definitely need to be checks in the format. But I thought cards like Dark Ruler No More were pretty strong for that. Nib going down in cost, I also think seems like a good adjustment. Maybe a card like Effect Veiler and Imperm maybe getting slightly cheaper so they're a little more accessible is good. But again, like you don't want every deck to be playing that because at that point you're just playing current, right? So there needs to be some differentiation between the formats to make it viable, I think. Logan, you said you've been getting into it a little bit lately. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to speak on in terms of like power level of the format and like if these changes are good. The only thing that's like really gotten me a little bit interested is just the number of cards that they're changing and how frequently they're changing it.
Hmm.
Um, I thought that this was going to be kind of a thing where the first list that came out was going to be big, and then afterwards it was going to be like maybe 5 or 10 cards like a Yu-Gi-Oh ban list, like a TCG ban list.
Hmm.
But seeing how much they're doing, and also just like the ability to very easily like in a month like Vanquish Soul like Jalon could be 7 points or 3 points or whatever.
Hmm.
How much the meta can change and just go back and forth is pretty interesting to me, and it's kind of like giving me that urge to deck build and kind of explore the format. Um, Definitely would be something that I'd be more interested in once we get like the YCS announced. But
Yeah.
for now, I'm just kind of keeping up with it at a distance.
Yeah. I would say it's probably where I'm at as well. I'm just kind of like scrolling through and looking at some of the changes. I think it looks like they're kind of adjusting things better. I still think seeing Swordsoul Emergence at 25 when Protoss is banned is crazy. But like Ashuna was a card at 33 that like it having any more than like 5 points at all seems kind of surprising.
I noticed some of their numbers too were like starting to make a little bit more sense. Like if
Yeah.
you scroll all the way to the top, they had a card like Question on here, and I think some
Yes.
people were like playing Question because it was at 0 and it was like kind of like a Monster Reborn, so they just made Question 11 and Reborn is 10. So like there's not really ever reason to play Question over Reborn, and you're just kind of like, you know, making the tournament difficult for judges with that.
Mhm.
And then obviously like cards like Last Turn and Reversal Quiz, all that stuff is obviously good hits in terms of this like tournament health.
Yeah, yeah. Like obviously this is like the FTK slash whatever list, so that they effectively removed all of these, which I think is a very positive adjustment. Then what did I see down here? That was like seeing a deck like ABC potentially have some more viability is nice. Like Glad Beast now being playable. I'm not sure what the deck accomplishes now, but just like seeing the point reductions, I think is adjustment. Yeah, Ninja's getting cheaper is also good. So yeah, we'll see how they continue to do this. It all looks like it's heading in the right direction. There's definitely like a few oversights, but I will say like the VFD deck, like getting the hits, like I think that's all good. The one oversight I heard was Punk. I haven't played against it too much, but I've heard that deck is just going to be like rather strong now. So obviously Droll being in the format seems good against that deck, but I've heard that deck is rather well positioned and pretty strong.
I think this list actually buffed Punk a little bit. Ghost Ogre got cheaper and E-Telly got cheaper, I believe.
Yeah, and there was one card I saw in
I
here
think
that
there's one Punk
yeah, like
specific hit, but
yeah, Foxy Dune
Yeah,
has
for-
5 points now, but yeah.
Yeah.
and
So
Upstart, I think they played Upstart in that deck also. I think that card has
yeah,
four
Upstart it's like 10
think
now
it's-
maybe.
I think it's
Three each. Okay, so deck seems very viable.
I think
Hopefully,
they hit Mitsurugi way too hard too
yeah, Mitsurugi got killed, which I think
Yeah.
is good. Like I saw it a little bit on Jilling Book, like before the event, before the YCS, and then I think a fair bit more after. But that's a deck that is just, I think, substantially too strong to be played in this type of a format, personally.
Yeah. But I think that's one of the things that's appealing about Genesis is that just because a deck got killed, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have to wait, 5 or 6 months or several ban lists. It could be a month and, the cards get lowered and it's back. I think that's kind of neat about the format.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're right. Like a lot of good things happening. It seems like they're being very responsive. They're using a lot of data from all the events, and then I assume outside sources. And based on from what I've seen on Twitter, like it seems like they've talked to some players about it. Like I think Ruggles knew about this beforehand, so they're using as many resources as possible to make this list any better. Aditya, have you put any time into this? Have any thoughts?
I haven't put too much time into Genesis myself. Granted, I do sit in Discord with a lot of people who talk about Genesis, so I'm able to like pick up some things. From what I understand, like the changes have actually been really, really good. It opens up the format a lot more to just other decks and new innovations. Especially like the Mitsurugi hits. People consider like really, really good because they didn't want to play against Mitsurugi again in TCG and in Genesis.
Yeah.
One card I had a question about I think it's a Spirit Monster, the Hime card. What deck was using that?
He-Man?
It went from 0 to 5.
How about Makonko?
The Exo Sister deck.
I know. Yeah. Is it the one that searches?
HIME.
Is it one that searches? How much? How do you spell it? Sorry.
There's one
HIME.
that's-
Oh yeah, Exo Sister. This card
the-
searches a light monster with 800 attack or defense, which is
Yeah.
all the Exo Sister
Okay.
monsters. So you search Martha.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So Exo Sister now is a little bit more of a cost pack to Macallis, which I think is good. Like if you want to play Shifter, you have to make some form of sacrifice. All of this is good. Like the Exo Sister engine, and then especially once it gets a new support, like that deck will definitely be very strong in this format and probably in current as well at that point. I know
I
Centolia's
think
already
it's kind
been.
of funny how they just wrote all 6 barrier statues in this post.
Yeah,
They
this is.
didn't they didn't bother to type them out.
I like this to be honest. I think it's like you can definitely tell this is more like less formal, like the blog post
Yeah.
and overall. Like I think it's more of like a
It feels like a player is making the changes.
yeah.
Just
I was
a
gonna say
a
like yeah, like
representative, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But much more friendly, more like kind of like a responsive conversation with the player base. And there's I think concerns that can come with that, but I think as long as they're being thoughtful with their changes, which it looks like they are, I think it's heading in the right direction. So good on them. We'll see how this all shapes out in Pittsburgh. Cam, I'm not sure if you are gonna get to play the events, but if you are, what deck would you picking, or what deck are you picking to win the Genesis side event?
I haven't looked into it that much, but I would say probably the Radiant Typhoon deck.
I think that's a strong front runner. I think it's that or Punk for me. Um,
Yeah, if someone can like figure out a good punk list, I think it would be good.
yeah. Before we move on, I'm curious, what is emergency teleport at now? 35? Okay, still very expensive. You can maybe justify like one, but it's probably still just play some good hand
I think the
traps and a
card
lot of.
is. I think the card's searchable now. I don't know if the Punk deck in Genesis plays it a way to search it, but I know they recently released like
Yeah,
multiple
there's a
ways to search Italy.
yeah. I was looking.
Yeah.
I was very bored one day and just looking at all the old decks, and one of them was Cosmo. So I looked at like ways to search the cards to search Telly, and I don't think Punk would play it. Like you just have too many good normal summons to justify it because it sets it from deck. I think I don't remember if it actually
I
searches
see.
it. There may be a different one, but
Yeah, I don't even know if you'd like play Telly, in my opinion, just because like also Foxy Tune going up to 5.
yeah,
It's like
I haven't looked at all of the list, so I believe you. Like you're probably just playing like Upstart Goblin and like some good non-engine and whatever
Hmm.
else. Like the deck already seems strong enough as is. So
Was Goblin Biker Grand Breakout? Is that a memento hit or was Goblin Biker like actually a deck in this format?
I think a little bit of both.
that's more of a memento hit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more memento, but I think it's both.
Yeah, I know my friend won locals with it recently. Like obviously whatever locals, but I think a deck is obviously with the Radiant Typhoon stuff. And also like one card that I heard talked about was the Radiant Typhoon Quick Play Draw Guy. That card not having cost seems a little surprising considering like the level of card that is on this list. Like Brow got points when it wasn't already. Like that Radiant Typhoon card seems way better than a card like Brow.
Yeah, it's
Um,
very splashable.
yeah,
I mean, I also personally think Terror Top should have probably gone up a little bit more than just 7 points. That card is absurd.
yeah. Like the check to rank 3 decks right now is the rank 3 XYZ pool is not particularly strong. But there's a lot of really good rank 3 support between Terror Top and um, Goblin Biker and Radiant Typhoon. That there's just so many strong ways to stick bodies on board that they're checked by no link mechanic, and obviously the rank 3 pool being I think a little more restricted than like the best end board for that is Cicada King and Totem Bird, which obviously strong but way more easy to play around than some other potential end board pieces. So we'll see how this progresses. Yeah, hopefully I'm not playing this in Anaheim or sorry in Pittsburgh, but worst comes to worst, I will find a Runic deck and a Runic Radiant deck and sit down and pull it out.
No,
Um,
bro, I already know you're signing up for the giant card.
all right, sure. Alrighty, so the well, I guess we'll do Brandon first. This will be a pretty brief discussion because I want to give Rahan his time to fucking preach the gospel of Alvaz. So Alvaz structure deck came out recently, all foil, similar like I don't know, layout to the Blue Eyes one originally, where there's one foil card of the entire set. I've seen it's like whatever, either a secret or a starlight of X card that comes in the set total. Seems pretty solid. $20 per box. And it's like a full, like effectively functioning deck. Like there's Lupelion in there, there's Magnamut, there's Super Polys, and like a lot of good fusion monsters. Like I think you could sit down with this, even just one of these decks at a locals and like not lose all of your matches. And if you buy 3, like I've definitely seen plenty of people talk about like that deck just being viable in tournaments. So Aditya, I know you're the locals warrior of all 4 of us. So what are your thoughts on the branded?
All right, 1, that's crazy. 2, like I think the brand deck, the structure deck at least, you could literally just play your locals like with cards only from the structure deck. That's what I've been doing for like the past 2 weeks. Like that's what I'm like shuffling right now. It's like opening test stands. The deck has been really really fun to play. It's really innovative, and it rewards like player skill. Granted, there are some cards that you would love to have reprinted that are not just Super Poly and Nibiru. Cards like Droll, like something like that, especially with the upcoming 5Ds decks, like how they reprinted like all of the staples. It's like a very very similar manner. I do wish that they reprinted a few more staples in this though, but otherwise, as a deck, it is really really good to play. It is really really good if you want to get people into the game as well, because it's not too expensive. It gives you everything you need to compete at the very minimum your locals, and that's like my biggest thought about it.
Yeah. Logan?
Yeah, I mean obviously what Aditya said is all accurate. I think this product is like just really really solid for new players. One thing I've noticed in their structure decks is I feel like every structure deck that gets released, it's becoming more and more viable to just pick up 2 or 3 copies of it and actually like. I think this deck you could legit, if you play 3 copies and you find a friend at locals who will pass you some commons like Dark Ruler and Droll and stuff, or borrow them or pick them up for a quarter, whatever. Like you could easily top a regional with 3 of this. You don't need the Sanctifier. Like I know that card's like $40 now. Hopefully you picked it up when it was like $5 like a month ago, but you can definitely play without that. I guess like the only thing I would nitpick about this, it's not necessarily like what's in it. It's just I don't like the ultra rarity. I think that's like probably the worst rarity in Yu-Gi-Oh. I would have preferred commons and like a couple of secret rares, but yeah, I'm not a fan of ultras. I think the lettering on those cards is kind of ugly, but yeah, it's a good product. I think $20 is a good deal, and it's also kind of fun too because you have the chance to like pull a Starlight.
Sorry, can I interject here?
Sure.
What's up?
Logan, you're wrong.
You're so wrong.
About you're so wrong about the ultras.
Dude,
They're
I
insane.
saw the card list for this and I got so excited that we're getting like common Bestials. And then when I saw the openings in their ultra, dude, I was so upset. But the next product got my commons.
The Logan, bro.
Yeah, Logan and I are looking forward to 5Ds decks. That's all we can say.
Logan, bro, it's okay to be wrong. It's fine.
Come on.
Cam, have you had to deal with the menace that is branded at locals lately?
I have not went to locals and I have not read those cards.
All right, perfect.
There's only 2 new cards in
Yeah,
this
so the
set.
new one is a good fusion, and then there's a quick play that pops a monster.
Yeah, it also sends one from your extra, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll just ask
Talk
you
about
as
those.
the more, we'll say, meta relevant one that only plays the regionals and plus these days. What do you think branded is now more viable with a little bit of support plus barrier getting hit? Like, what was holding the deck back from being competitive before, and like, do you think this changes any of it?
I think that deck is going to be viable and it probably has been viable, but Barry was holding it back. And the deck like going first is still like really strong. So
Yeah.
it's just like going second that's like the hard part.
Yeah, I mean, there's less hard negates in the format. There's no barrier now, so being able to play that deck kind of at will is definitely a benefit. I mean, at a minimum, you'll definitely see it in branded or in the Draco Tail deck. Like Branded Fusion's a pretty common card to see there. Okay, I'll ask you this: do you think which of the fusion decks do you think is better? Do you think it's still Draco Tail, or do you think Branded is now more viable?
Draco Tail for sure.
Okay,
Good tell.
I agree. I think, yeah, I'll save a lot of this conversation for Rahan next week. And I think the selling point of Branded is you have a little bit more versatility in the non-engine you can play because Draco Tail is pretty monster-centric. And this deck can obviously play cards like Thrust and Super Poly in the main deck pretty comfortably. But you also are kind of restricted in the number of non-engine slots you have, so I think that's a downside of it compared to Tail. So we'll kind of see how this shapes out over the coming weeks. I expected to see it represented a noticeable number in Pittsburgh, maybe in like somewhere the 5 to 10% range, just because of accessibility and all of that. Do I think the deck is going to take up a noticeable percentage of top cut? I don't think so. So we shall see. But that is my personal guess for this. And last thing on this is the legendary 5e structure deck. I don't have a picture of this pulled up, unfortunately. But the big selling point of this that we all saw is, I'm not sure if everything in here is common, but I know for a fact there are common Fua, Meows, and Perulia, which, as a common enthusiast, makes me very happy. I already have someone to send me Europrint commons, and I'm going to have all my staples again, and it's going to be a good time. So, Logan.
Yo, hook me up with those Europrints. I need the sets too.
I'll send you the plug. I got you. So.
Okay, cool.
What is this? We've got Yusei Black Rose and Blackwing Dragon. Does this have the Akiza support for the Black Rose stuff, I assume?
It has a lot of it, yeah.
Okay.
It's obviously missing like the cards that just came out, but it has a lot of the older support, I believe.
I heard that stuff's like not that bad. I'm not sure if it's getting more stuff in Burst Protocol as well, but
I've heard people talk about it in Genesis. I haven't really seen anything about it in like current, but
fair enough.
But yeah, this product is like really, really good.
This is what I think Rarity Collection like probably should have turned into at a point in time. Like the first couple I think were okay, but by the end of it I think it was a little oversaturating in terms of the number of rarities and just the accessibility of it all. Like when Starlights become sub $5 or $10, like I think that like that rarity probably lost its purpose, which was a collector's goal, and just like a high rarity or like a high prestige thing. When the cards became too accessible, I think that became a bit of an issue for the market, and that's why it's kind of made product lose value and collecting the ability to collect cards lose value. So this is how I think the reprint should go, is like you have the comments for people like me and Logan who just want to play main rarity and not care about the aesthetics of our deck, and then you obviously have like the original printing, which are secrets and like look good and solid, and then you have like the super high rarity QCR and Starlights or whatever. So I think I would prefer to see something like that, and I want it also to be spaced out over time too, where you have like only the secrets for a little bit of time, and then you get like the solid reprints, and then you get now that we're commons. I think over a year and a half into Perulia, about a year into Fua, and a little under a year into Meows. So I think it's a good time for all this. Excited to see it. Looking forward to playing a full common deck at some point as soon as I get Magnum out of common, and it'll be a good time.
Some other commons in the set too. Ghost Mourner gets its first common. Crossout Designator gets its first common, and then there's also some reprints. I think there's
There's
Nib,
Droplet,
yeah. Oh,
Imperm.
Droplet gets its first common too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imperm gets another reprint. Droll gets a reprint. Like very solid set.
Chalice called by. Yeah, there's a lot of good
Yeah,
stuff,
like-
and then also you're guaranteed the chibi art of the 3 Signer Dragons, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I
I
think
guess we can
Konami.
just call this. Sorry, I guess we can just call this set to be like the next Dual Devastator.
Pretty
Right.
much. Yeah.
That's what I've heard. Yeah. So
Yeah. It's also cheaper too. I think it's like $10 cheaper.
it's
than,
31 per 32
Yeah, I
per.
think Dual Devastator was like 39.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't remember exactly.
from my perspective, a lot of good decisions from Konami. I think the Brandon Structure deck was solid. I think this is a good look for them. I think this is Bologna weekend, if I remember correctly. So we'll see. I doubt that'll have any significant impact on the event, but
It releases on my birthday.
that was sick. So yeah, we've got that coming up, and then yeah. So far, I can't really complain about any of Konami's recent decisions. Like solid Genesis point update, there was a lot of cards that a lot of them needed to get hit. Advanced E-Banlist, which we weren't expecting, and hit a lot of problem cards, and then a solid adjustment in terms of how product is being put out moving forward. So good on them. Excited to see more of that moving forward. So we'll get into some brief Pittsburgh discussion before we head out there. I know Logan's got some stuff to do. So Cameron, what are your thoughts on post list? Like, how do you perceive the meta changing? Because we didn't gain anything, but we lost a lot of problem cards. So you obviously took Mitsuyami to a solid finish. Like, what are your kind of your perception on the Mitsuyami progression?
The Mitsuyami progression.
Yes, like from pre-list, like it was probably the best deck by the end of Anaheim and Sao Paulo. Like I think that it was pretty identifiable as the deck to beat. Do you still see it that way? Like, does losing Barrier justify playing another deck? Like, what are your kind of thoughts on that?
I think it's still the best deck. I don't think losing Barrier mattered at all because it's like some people didn't even play that card, and like I think Dracotel got better just because no Barrier.
Yeah.
Even like Mr. Yummy didn't really care about Barrier because you had 2 engines.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that Mr. Yummy is just still the best deck. Like I don't think I'll take anything else.
Fair enough. So Aditya, Dracotil still? Anything else? You're gonna play branded for us, or you're just gonna play a big fusion pile? Where are you at?
Personally, I think Dracotel is much better position than it was for Pittsburgh. Granted, people are probably still going to be dissuaded from playing it, especially with the. I look at Dracotel and I see like a pretty high skill ceiling on the deck, because you need to really know what everything else is doing in the format and how to play correctly. Because the issue isn't like that your go first board is weak. It's that you need to know how to interact properly. People are losing games going first and saying like, "Oh, my board just isn't big enough," and they try to play cards to expand their board. Granted, Branded Fusion is a crazy card. You can use it both as a breaker and a way to make your board bigger. But at the same time, 5 mana plus 3 traps usually should be winning you almost every game.
Especially if you have access to something like Affiliate Regis too. That card I think is a layer that a lot of decks will struggle to beat.
That card's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Philly Regis is my dog.
All right, Logan, where are you at with all this?
Yeah, I think With the E-Ban and stuff, I think some of the decks that got a little bit worse. I think Pure Yummy got a bit worse. That was like one of the decks that was really good at keeping the combo decks in check, just because you could play like 18 to 20 hand traps. Losing barrier in that deck is a little bit annoying. You're gonna have to replace it with a less generic floodgate or something that's harder to pull off. Um, I've been a big hater of Draco Tail. I think pretty much anybody who talks to me knows that. I think the deck is better now. I'm still pretty dubious about the odds of it winning an event. I think it's a pretty safe deck to go X3 with at a YCS. If you hit the higher end of your variance, I don't know if you're going to. I mean, maybe you could top 8, but I find it hard to believe. That deck just has a lot of issues. Maybe barrier being out of the format helps it break past that point. But my issues with the deck are more so just like its ceiling and its deck building problems. Yeah, I think Mitsuyami is obviously a winner here. The deck plays a little bit less non-engine than some other decks, which is probably just fine now with less OTK, FTK type of decks in the meta. Um, and there's probably going to be a lot of players playing branded at Pittsburgh. But I don't really foresee that deck doing too well. I think there'll be somebody who top 32s. I really doubt it's possible to top 8 with that deck right now, but maybe there's some innovation that we don't know about.
Yeah, I think you echo a lot of my thoughts on Draco Tail. Very good deck. I think going X3 is very easy to do with that deck, honestly, if you play very well. Well, I think it also takes advantage of, like, let's say Mitsuyami is like the deck to beat, and people tailor their non-engine towards it. So they're playing cards like Fua, and we'll say maybe BLs and Dark Ruler no more. Like Draco Tail has an opposite play style to a lot of those cards. And Joel as well is another one. So like so originally when we were talking about Pittsburgh like 2 weeks ago, we're like, okay, this Malice deck fills that role of not losing the draw and barrier because that was kind of what we expect the non-engine to cater towards. Now Malice, from my perspective, loses a lot of its potency because now every deck doesn't lose the barrier. So as long as your deck doesn't lose the Droll or Fua or Meows or whatever, then I think you're going to be in a similar position to the strength of that deck. And I think Malice in general just struggles going second. So we'll see. Well, going second, and then also just into any Yummy deck. Like if you don't draw super, probably like please out like any Yummy board. I think it's pretty hard for them. So we'll see. So the decks that I actually wanted to bring up because I've seen a lot of them on Dueling Book, and these are decks that weren't as popular before. And from my perspective, I don't see a big reason as to why they got an uptick. I think one of them I could justify, but the other ones I don't see a big argument for. So Lunalight is one that I've seen a fair amount more on Dueling Book. I think it may just be people are playing a little bit more breakers, and you obviously just get to like stick a Liger or two and say good luck. And then along with that are Malice, Pure Orchist, which I'm kind of surprised to see. I don't really understand why that deck is better now than before. And then obviously the branded deck. So those are the 4 decks when I'm kind of like scrolling high rated on Dueling Book. Those are like what I've seen lately. So came of those 4 decks. What do any of them intrigue you? Are all of them just like okay tier 2 decks? Do any of them stand out as just like atrocious? Like what are your thoughts on those 4?
I gave thoughts to Malice. I actually played it at a case tournament the previous weekend.
Mm.
I feel the deck has too many issues with not having enough pushes anymore. That was the biggest dissuader for me, is that now you could really just lose to one bell or something, and it's just like the unfortunate reality. There is a deck that I did want to add to the list though, and it was Pure Mitsurugi. I think it is slightly better positioned, even though Fossil Dyna is gone, like your floodgates are gone. It is a deck that can play very, very well through any Charmy, just because of how you can tailor your play to the way you want it to. You get to play a heavy Mitsurugi engine, and you also get to play just as much non-engine as a deck like Draco Tail, or as much as like Malice used to.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Cam, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts on what?
Oh, so I mentioned Orcust, Malice, Lunalight, Branded, and then Aditya also brought up like Pure Mitsu. So these are decks that were maybe on the outside looking in before, or that I've seen kind of pop up on Rated a little bit more as of late. Do you any of those stand out to you as like now like got a big buff from the ban list? Do you think those are all just like tier 2 decks? Do any of them stand out as just like completely unplayable? Like what are your kind of thoughts on those few?
I think Orcus and Malice are unplayable. Malice lost like its edge that it had.
Hmm.
Orcus, I just don't think is very good. and what was the other again?
We had Lunalight, Branded, and Pure
Oh,
Mitsu.
yeah,
Your Mitsu, yeah.
Lunalight, I think got better. I think it's not bad, just because all the cards are broken and Liger's just hard to deal with. And people play Gorga now, but you can just play around that pretty easily.
Yeah.
So out of all those, I think Lunalight might just be the best one of those.
I didn't realize it when I mentioned it, but all those are decks that play Impulse, and I think that may be a trend that we kind of see is now that Pure Mitsu is a little bit more prominent, and some of the Mitsu Yummy decks I've seen running around are on one ritual, and some play mirror, some don't, so one Impulse can just like cut off an entire half of your deck, and if you're playing a Yummy deck without a Croaky and a smaller Yummy package, like that can just like really impact your grind game and also just the ability to create meaningful interactions. Logan, where are you at?
Yeah, on those list of decks, I think Orcus didn't really gain anything. I think that deck was like pretty unplayable, like tier 3 before. I don't think it's good. Pure Mitsu, I think, is slightly better. I don't think losing Fossil Dyna really matters. I actually think like doing the Fossil Dyna play was actively worse than just searching Nib in a lot of situations. It made your board less layered and more susceptible to cards like Dark Ruler. There were matchups where you wanted the Dyna. I think specifically against like other Mitsurugi decks, it was pretty good to have the Dyna because Nib isn't as good. Yeah, I don't think that matters that much. I think no D barrier is a pretty big buff to that deck. But overall, the issues with Pure Mitsu is just it's somewhat inconsistent. For how inconsistent it is, it doesn't really make up by playing a lot of non-engine. It plays a lot of awkward cards, but I think it's a fine, like, third or fourth best deck. Lunalight, I think, is just the deck that it's going to be a meta call deck. There's going to be tournaments where people aren't prepared for it. Someone's going to enter, and somebody's probably going to top 8 with it. I wouldn't be shocked if that deck got top 8 at an event. It is what it is at this point. I don't think there's anything that's going to kind of alter the gameplay loop of Lunalight. In terms of Malice, I think that is probably the best deck of those on your list there. I think the deck construction is really good with that deck. It has a lot of hand traps. Its hand traps can function as engine and non-engine with the Bestials. Sticking like a nib on your board can help you make a link on your turn. The obvious issues with that deck is it's very weak to hand traps. Like Aditya said, one Bell can end your turn. Purge and Ash are way better now because of like your reliance on TB11, your reliance on Ransom. So I think that's going to be another deck that's kind of positioned similar to Lunalight, where there's probably going to be an event in the next 6 months or a year where somebody takes Malice and does really well with it. I could see it winning an event. I could see it getting top 8 pretty easily. But as soon as people are playing a significant amount of hand traps, I think that deck is pretty much unplayable.
It would be really ironic if this was the time that Malice won an event was YCS Pittsburgh after everything just gets fucked. Like
it's on my radar. It's on my short list of like decks I
Yeah.
would consider, but it's
Yeah.
more unlikely than the others.
It should have
Agreed.
won an event already.
yeah, it should have. You're right, actually.
Do you guys know anybody that should have won an event with that deck?
Aditya, any thoughts? Malice winning events?
I don't know. Do you know anybody that should have gone to Worlds 4 times?
It's only 3. It's only 3.
Yeah, I don't know.
unless
Four. I know
unless you
three,
want to
though.
count Goat Worlds.
Okay, yeah, 4.
Damn, rip.
R.I.P.
Alrighty.
Aditya knows my lore too well.
True. The one thing I will say about the Malice is like, if Malice just plays against a lot of branded, where they are main decking Impulse and Bestials and Bells or whatever, like that's probably not a bad matchup for you. So you can probably find like a bracket of Swiss that Malice performs very well into. But if you're playing against more than like 3 Yummy decks with Malice, I would be surprised if you won more than like 1 or 2 of those. Like it's a pretty tough matchup from what I've seen. So. Yeah, we'll do probably some more discussion about this next week. Aditya, pleasure having you on. Any final thoughts, my friend?
No, I think like covered what we needed to cover. It was good. Thank you for having me on. Shout out to actually nobody. Shout out to me. All right.
Shout out to Aditya. Cam, any final thoughts?
No final thoughts. Thanks for having me, and shout outs to Aditya.
Aditya getting all the shout outs. So yeah,
Can't recognize this game.
of course, yes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you in the next one.